I'm frequently asked by sellers how I will evaluate the offers they receive on the property. And this applies to multiple offers where we're comparing several offers against one another. We are still getting those in the San Francisco Bay Area. Or if we just had one offer, how will I help the seller evaluate that offer? Well, the ways we do that are by using a checklist. And on that checklist, we have things like, who is the agent? Is that a local active agent that has a reputation for closing transactions on time? There are some agents in the market that are notorious for backing out of transactions or having their buyers back out of the purchase. Now, the next thing we evaluate is the purchase price. Is that a good purchase price given our current market? And if it's not, then could we counter that purchase price to get it up a little bit higher? Next, it goes to whether the buyer's getting a loan or paying all cash. And if they're getting a loan, do they have a pre-approval? Now, if they've got a pre-approval, we want to know how detailed that pre-approval is. How much does the lender have on that buyer? Do they have their W-2 statements or their 1099s to show that they're earning the income that they claim? Has that lender verified their down payment? Things like that. And then that actually shows us here the down payment. How much is that buyer putting down? The more that buyer is putting down on that purchase, the more secure that we know that purchase is going to be. Plus, it also allows us to say, well, let's just say that we're at a very high sales price relative to the other comparable sales in the area. If that buyer's putting more money down, then if the appraisal comes in a little bit short, we know that buyer has additional funds to make up the difference between the appraisal and the purchase price. How much is the loan to value? This is very similar to the down payment. The lower the loan to the value of the property, the more secure we can feel in that buyer's ability to be able to close escrow and actually purchase the property. When the buyer says they're putting, let's say, 20% down, because that's the most common, then has that buyer shown us their proof of funds? Have they shown us brokerage statements, bank accounts that add up to how much they're going to need to put down? And then we always call that buyer's lender. I can't tell you how many times I've called the lender who's done a pre-approval on the buyer that says something that causes me to question whether my seller should get in contract with that particular buyer. Next thing we look at is the earnest money deposit. On the San Francisco Peninsula, the typical earnest money deposit, that's when you first go into contract, typical earnest money deposit is 3%. If the buyer is putting down less than 3% for their earnest money deposit, we need to know why, and that might cause us to question whether we want to get in contract with that buyer or not. Next thing are contingencies. In the San Francisco Bay Area, it's actually very common for a buyer to waive all of their contingencies in a competitive situation. Contingencies would be the loan contingency. Can that buyer get a loan? Next would be the appraisal contingency. Can that buyer still buy the property if maybe the appraisal comes in a little bit lower than what we expected? And then the last thing is what's called the property condition contingency. And that basically is a big umbrella that covers everything. That is inspections on the property. Have they reviewed the title report? Things like that. Have they inspected the neighborhood? So are there any contingencies in that offer? And then next we have close of escrow. How quick is the close of escrow? In the San Francisco Bay Area, the typical close of escrow is 30 days. We are seeing a lot of 21 days also, but 30 days is the most common. Maybe the buyer really wants this property, so they're going to promise a quicker close of escrow. So then we ask, will the lender support that? Can the lender do that? Maybe the buyer wants a longer close of escrow because of some other reason. So we need to know that. The next thing is, in the San Francisco Bay Area, we give the buyer all of the disclosures up front. That would be the property inspection, the roof inspection, the pest inspection, all of the seller disclosures where they tell everything that's wrong with the property, everything they fixed over the years. Has that buyer read and signed off on all of those disclosures. If they signed off on everything, then we know that that buyer is thoroughly educated and still wants to buy that property. And then the paid items. Paid items would be in San Mateo County, which is where I sell. The sellers have certain things in the transaction they pay for, and then the buyers have certain things in the transaction they pay for. In that offer, what the buyer is agreeing to pay for is that standard for our county. That's a consideration. And then sometimes what you'll find are givebacks. And these things sometimes can be a little bit sneaky. Sometimes the buyer's agent will put something way down in the contract. I think the contract's 16 pages now. Way down in that contract on some line that says maybe the seller's going to credit the buyer back $10,000 or something. So we look for those kind of things buried in the offer, because the last thing we want to do is tell our seller, hey, this is a great offer, sign it, accept it, only to find out later that there's something in there that we didn't expect that they're giving back to the buyer. And then finally, any other considerations? Is there anything else that we should be aware of in that offer that would cause us to say, yes, we really want it, we really should take the offer, or hey, maybe we should stay away from this? So that's how we evaluate offers. If you want to know more, give us a call. My info's at the end here, and I'll have a great day.